Joining us now from Bristol for more on the story is Tony Gosling, historian and investigative journalist. Hello, Tony. Good to check in with you. Hope you're safe and doing well out there in Bristol. At least all Gaza families at this point, Tony, been displaced once, according to the UN. Mr. Domenico there, some up to 10 times. Tony, tell me what life like that must be like right now in Gaza.
Well, it's 1.9 million people, the UN are saying this today, have been displaced. Now, you can imagine, so for example, a large British city, an entire British city being displaced. You can imagine, if you want, a European city, an American city being displaced, the entire city being told to leave because it's being bombed. Tens of thousands of their citizens being murdered from the air in a genocide. So this is it's okay because it's happening to Palestinians in Gaza, and if it was happening, I think, in Europe, it would not be okay. If it was happening in America, it would not be okay. In fact, it would be an excuse for all-out war. In fact, the illegal war with Iraq happened on a lie. It wasn't even any actual reason that they did it. It was talking about weapons of mass destruction which didn't even exist. And so you can see we're really in a fight here between truth and lies, good and evil in Gaza. And one of the most evil acts of the Israelis has been to try and pretend they're doing this in God's name. This is one of the most incredible, audacious, you might call it, but particularly wicked acts that they've been doing. I, as a British person speaking to you from Bristol, must apologise for the acts of our government. They certainly don't represent anything like the majority view in Britain. In fact, it's a very tiny minority that agree with Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer, who've been supporting this genocide. And tomorrow we've got a general election in Britain, and we hear just today that £500,000, £500,000 has been donated by Stuart Roden to the Labour Party, who are almost certain to win tomorrow. And he's one of the people that got rid of Jeremy Corbyn through his donations and his help, who was pro-Palestinian. And of course, Keir Starmer, who's actually been supporting the genocide, is about to take over as a result. So our politics and our political parties are being influenced by these people. This Stuart Roden, his company is actually joint ownership with a load of Israeli Special Forces personnel here in Britain. So that's actually the reality on the ground, is that British politics is being controlled by, in fact, influenced and financed by Israeli Special Forces money. And so I'm very upset to see that, we're going to get almost another potential. I don't think quite so enthusiastic, the Labour Party generally, Keir Starmer maybe not, support for this from the United States. So quite clearly, this is not democracy. What's been going on is using all the terms of democracy, which was the case really up until maybe the 1960s and 70s here in Britain. We did have largely democratic governments after the universal franchise, through the Second World War and after the Second World War, for example. But they're using all this rhetoric, and they're saying, oh, this is democratic, we're having a democratic election. They're not. And if we had a proper proportional system in Britain, like most other countries in the world do, the Labour Party would not be about to win tomorrow. Starmer would not be about to win. He'd have to go into coalition, maybe with the Scottish National Party, who are pro-Palestinian. And so, this is the way it's done, I'm afraid. And they still call it democracy here.
And Tony, forced displacement is a war crime, no less by your occupier. Collective punishment is a war crime, Tony, and no less by your occupier. And this isn't displacing a middle-aged guy like yourself or me, Tony, where we just pack up our stuff, even if we're displaced multiple times. I mean, maybe even if it's just you and a spouse. But these are entire families with children, with elderly, going to places that are bombed out, just nothing but debris and rubble, and then setting up tents, makeshift tents, barely having access to food and water, and then getting displaced like that in that kind of ruinous campaign time and again. It must be a nightmare, Tony. What have the Palestinians done for the Israelis to unleash this kind of torment upon them?
the torment is deliberate. The torment is evil, and the object is to provoke and to cause. I mean, we've seen a similar thing going on in Ukraine as going on in Gaza, where you've got Zelensky, even though he knows he's lost, carrying on, pretending he's going to win, and really just staving off the inevitable. It's almost like you've got an individual mentally ill in denial about the real world and reality. The same is going on with the Israelis. And the New York Times, I noticed today, has been saying that the Israeli generals are telling Netanyahu, we want a truce, we must have a truce. And Netanyahu is saying that he wants to fight on. He's saying and actually another article talking about Netanyahu risking a Lebanon war for his political survival. So he's in the position where he wants to stay out of jail and stay a politician, but the only way he can do it is to carry on the war. And so many thousands and thousands of people are dying, and possibly more in the future, quite possibly more, just to guarantee the future of one wicked and criminal politician by the name of Benjamin Netanyahu. And he has been supported right the way through this, right from the start. The justification of the genocide right at the very beginning in October 2023 by Keir Starmer, the guy who's about to take over Great Britain. And he's not really representing British people at all. He's even confessed that he prefers the politics of the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab, the Great Reset people, to Westminster. So he doesn't want to have a debate, because he knows that if he goes along to the World Economic Forum, he can meet the arms companies, he can meet with the financial, the public private equity firms that want to invest in war, and he can have a nice lunch and a dinner with them much more easily than having to stand up for what he believes in and argue his case in the House of Commons. He's also a member of the Rockefeller-funded, in the 1970s, founded Trilateral Commission, which is basically a US think tank which prepares leaders for the Western world. And Keir Starmer, who's about to become the British Prime Minister, almost certainly is one of those. So this is not democracy. It's almost like they're playing at being politicians. They're standing there, they're giving political speeches, but they're not really politicians. They are puppets. They're placemen who are part of a group which has got no connection with the public, and they're just really doing public relations for them. The other thing with Starmer is his record, many people don't know in the UK, was terrible as the director of, he was one of the chief public prosecutors in Britain, where he binned the paedophile Jimmy Savile's prosecutions that the Surrey police had put together. He put those in the bin while he was the chief prosecutor. And you know what? He also vilely pursued the Julian Assange case. So he actually went over to Sweden to try and make sure Julian Assange stayed under house arrest. So this is the kind of guy Starmer is. And we in Britain are going to be doing everything, I think, from tomorrow to try and make sure that this guy his feet are held to the fire, because there's no way that he's carrying on the appalling abuses of human rights and foreign policies that the Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak and the Conservative Party have.
It is indeed a horrible stain on humanity, Tony. Thanks for joining us again here on the program.